It's 2026, and we're talking Mayweather Pacquiao 2? Really? We get into it next on Beyond the Locker Room. Consider this a bonus episode, folks, because I did not think I'll be discussing in 2026, in February 2026, Pacquiao or Mayweather in any sort of relevant way. But lo and behold, one thing about boxing, man, it's never dull. And sometime, I guess it was maybe Thursday night, Friday, the news started swirling that there's going to be a sequel to the Pacquiao-Mayweather fight that happened on Cinco de Mayo Day, way back in the day. I don't remember, so I'm trying to remember what year it was. It was a year when the Avengers came out, because I actually watched it the same day as the fight. So whatever that day is, I think it's May 5th, and I can't remember what year it was. It was a great day of sports. It was a great day, actually, overall, man. I watched Avengers that day, fantastic movie. It was Spurs, Clippers, Game 7. I think the Clippers ended up losing. I can't remember. I think the Clippers ended up losing Game 7 in that one. And it might be the last game for Blake Griffin, I think, too. And of course, the nightcap was the fight. But anyways, Mayweather and Pacquiao have decided to get it on once again, as my man would say. Mills Lane. I'm going to break down my thoughts of like the 3 reasons I believe why this is happening, and we'll go from there. So, we'll take it from there. I think there's a few things going on here and why, the stars have come together and coalesced for this situation. So, I'm going to put it this way. This was done on Mayweather's terms. No two ways about it. This was done on Mayweather's terms. And the reason why I say so is that Mayweather is the straw that stirs the drink. He has the pull. He has the cachet. If he wants to have the fight, they will have the fight. Pacquiao is always ready to fight. It doesn't matter who it is, he's ready to fight. He just fought a few months ago in this case in a pretty good fight. In this, he looked pretty decent, and he had a chance to actually win a title. It was that close. But he will fight any day, any time of the week. But he ain't got the juice to actually pull this off. So this is on Mayweather's terms. So the question you have to ask yourself is, well, why would Floyd Mayweather Jr. want to fight again? Actually, he's got the sterling record of 50-0, and we'll get to that in a second. He has, he's one of the greatest boxers of all time, pound for pound. He's in the argument of arguably best boxers ever lived. He's made a ton of money, you would think, based on his own deals and breaking out past Showtime. We'll get to that in a moment. So you're thinking, well, why would Floyd? He's got properties all over the place. Why would Floyd want to do this? What's in it for him? Well, I can give you my 3 reasons why I think this is the case for Floyd. So let's get into it. Let's have a little fun today and kind of do some brainstorming and get our own little conspiracies and get the buttons on the board and see why this is happening. So for reason number 1, I think this fight might be happening. Mayweather, just a few weeks back, I guess it's almost a month ago now, it came out February 4th that Floyd Mayweather Jr. had sued Showtime. He claims in his lawsuit that he's owed millions of dollars, and to be exact, about $340 million that Showtime owes him. Now, as he referred to it in this case, a lawsuit filed that ESPN obtained in this case. I'll put the link down below. He said, quote, seeks to recover hundreds of millions of dollars in misappropriated funds and damages resulting from a long-running and elaborate scheme of financial fraud, breaches of fiduciary duty, and conspiracy orchestrated by Floyd Mayweather's former manager and advisor, Al Heyman, with the knowing and substantial participation and aid of defendants Showtime Networks, Inc., and Steven Espinoza, among others, end quote. That's what the lawsuit had, that was within the lawsuit. That's not from your boy, that's from that. He suggested a complex web of hidden accounts, unauthorized transactions, deliberate concealments, and all sorts of other stuff, in this case, to kind of form this conspiracy. I tell you, so you have a big $340 million reason why he might be coming back out to fight. And I think that, one thing with Floyd loves 2 things. Floyd loves the box, respects the craft. No 2 ways about it. You know what Floyd also likes? He likes the do-re-mi. He loves his money. And if he feels that he's lost out on money, he needs to replenish those coffers some way, you know, 340 million or so, give or take a couple nickels. He's gonna, you know, I think this is a way for him to actually kind of quickly build back the reservoir and the piggy bank. Let's put it that way. So that's what I think is reason number one why this fight is happening. Reason number two why this fight is happening, I think, and this is not support. These are all just my opinions, man. Who knows? I think the reason why this is also happening is that Mayweather's a shrewd businessman, as I said in the last segment. But but Mayweather also sees the landscape of boxing change quite differently than what it was when he fought essentially about almost a decade ago, pretty much. Like, so he, you know, it might be a decade ago. Yeah, actually, yeah, I think it is over a decade ago. So like, he's looking at things now. He's thinking to himself like, you know, things have changed quite a bit. We have, social media is way more prominent. So therefore, there's all sorts of ways to have, you know, kind of like highlights and stuff and ways to populate and promote yourself. Be it, Instagram, X, whatever it might be, TikTok. So he's looking at it that way. But the real thing is, as I said before, it goes back to Do Re Mi. And Mayweather, I would say Mayweather is looking at it from the standpoint of, he saw what happened last September. He saw exactly what the numbers were for Canelo and Crawford. So just to give you a sense of what we're talking about here, the infrastructure has changed. Netflix is in the game, people, and he sees it from that perspective, like, oh, okay. So just to give you some sense here from a Sportsnet article here, Alvarez arguably at this point is the biggest name in boxing, So they drew a crowd at never could pronounce this right. What's the Las Vegas stadium where the Raiders play? Allegiant Stadium, I believe is how it's pronounced. My apologies to the company if I messed it up, but the record crowd was about 70,482 on that Saturday night when they had the fight. So we're looking at things like draws, records, things of that nature. So there's the ego element of two. So when you look at it from the standpoint of that fight with him and Crawford, they pulled in, a whole bunch of fans and a whole bunch of casual people, which one of the things that Netflix does for boxing that hasn't happened probably since the 70s, maybe early 80s, is that you're able to bring the casual fan to watch the fight. It makes there's the accessibility factor is much easier. So they've brought down the obstacles of that. If you want to watch a big fight, wherever the fight is, that you have to be a humongous star like Mayweather, or I'll be honest with you, I think Pacquiao's on the same level, and quite honestly, but like Mayweather, like Tyson back in his day, where maybe a little bit for a window there, De La Hoya was in that category, where you were bringing out folks that don't watch sports and definitely don't watch boxing, but it is the event, and boxing has that ability to create an event, quite like no other sport. If you're able to do so, but you had to go and pay $59.99, $69.99, $79.99 to pay for that fight, and that there is a barrier for acceptance, or go out to some bar that was doing it in this case and pay a cover charge to go and watch the fight there. Those are all barriers for someone that's casual to watch the fight. They're not looking to put any skin in the game if they don't have to, which means excessive extra expenses in this case, or even travel in some circumstances to go watch the fight. When you come watch it at the comfort of your home, you already have Netflix. You can say, Saturday night, what the heck? I'll go and check out the fight. I hear a few people talking about it at work. I hear folks chatting about it online. Let me flip on the fight. And it can be something literally within a 5-minute decision to do so. That power that Netflix has from a streaming service standpoint, now obviously all the streaming services have it, but Netflix in particular, because it's the most ubiquitous, is like Netflix is almost like how you have, when you think streaming, people say, you have Netflix. It's almost ubiquitous with streaming. Almost, if you think about, almost everybody has Netflix in some form or fashion, on their phone, on their laptop, on their TV. So you now are reaching out to a bigger audience, which he's never really, even as great as Mayweather's been in his career as a draw, that is something I think that is attractive to him at a level that we can't understand. Never mind the fact now you have more infrastructure now. You have these huge, new, humongous stadiums now that you can do fights in. It's not just like, we're going to just do it at wherever casino. Now we can go to the stadiums like they're the one in Vegas. We go to one of the old Jerry Jones barn out there in Dallas. There's huge stadiums where you can now fill up and get this done. You know, MetLife, wherever, out in New York or New Jersey, like there's big stadiums where you can think about doing these type of fights, you know, in a very big way. And Netflix also brings a sense of production, which I think will be something that's key. I think that he'll be interested in. And then obviously this builds out, in this case, the money. You know, just to give more perspective on that, you know, from where things were. Let's see here. Just want to double check something here. Because like the money they brought in and what they grossed in this case here, you know, I think it's a level of money and prominence and appeal that I think that draws Mayweather into like, this is something I hadn't thought about before. If Jake Paul's pulling this off with Mike Tyson making as much cash, what the heck am I doing here? You know, and this leads now to the third reason. And you're saying, well, if you know, going back to, you know, number 3, going back to what I've said before about, you know, Jake Paul had done it, so why don't I just do it? Now he's gonna have a fight with Tyson in Zaire, you know, or you know what was formerly Zaire in this case here. I think, you know, and I think, you know, the Tyson fight's interesting because the Tyson fight's essentially a warm up and kind of like a test of what this would look like, you know, and I think that's where, you know, where he's gonna start testing what, you know, what would look like, stuff of that nature. I don't know. Let's put it this way. You know, it's April 25th when this is supposed to happen at the moment. Date, location. So let's see here. We have April 25th, according to Sporting News and major outlets saying so. It's going to return, in this case, the Rumble, the Jumble, return to it. Right now, the participants of the Democratic Republic of Congo, formerly Zaire. So they're going to put it there. I don't know, like, as far as I'm concerned, like, like this ain't no Rumble in the Jungle, but whatever. But I think he's testing the waters because, hey, he's very meticulous like that way, not only to get some reps and some cardio in and also make a little money with it too, but I think he's testing it out of what that looks like, you know, moving, you know, from a streaming and production standpoint too with the Tyson fight, you know. So that's the reason why I think that's happening. Now, you're saying to yourself, like, I'm thinking the same thing. Well, why don't you just make a bunch of money in Tyson and call it a day? I think there's a third part of this, and here's the third part. Ego. Now, he has a record that's official, sanctioned by the, you know, the Las Vegas casinos, that he's 50-0. Now, obviously his 50th win was over Conor McGregor. Obviously, Conor McGregor's no world-class boxer. We all know that. Great MMA fighter, very entertaining, you know, very good promoter, you know, of fights, but he ain't no world-class fighter. And I think there's a little bit of, you know, of Mayweather's an odd character in this case. As much as he loves the money, in some ways he's still a bit of a purist when it comes to the, you know, the sweet science. And I think he knows he kind of tried to cut some corners on that with the 50-0. And I think it's rubbed him the wrong way because I'm sure lots of boxing aficionados will kind of say, hey, man, I ain't no Rocky, you know, to quote my man in Coming to America, you ain't no Rocky Marciano. So I'm just thinking to myself, like, that must be eating at him. That, you know, people are not really seeing his 50-0 the same way as they see Marciano's 50-0. So I think he's saying, you know what? Okay, you want me 50-0? I can give you a legitimate 50-0 then. And I think this is the third reason why this fight's happening. I'm going to give it to you with your man. All right? You want a sequel? Fine. Because which way can I get all the things I want? If you think about it. Which way can I recoup the fastest amount of money? You know, so I'm going to put this in summary. Which way I could, you know, recoup the fastest amount of money? Which way can I, you know, get the most eyeballs to watch? And what's the way I can legitimize my 50-0, my undefeated record? Which combatant provides all those things? And when you think about it and check the boxes, I would say there's two guys that could kind of do that. One is probably Bud Crawford, but I don't think he wants any of that smoke because he might actually lose. Because that's another thing with Mayweather. Mayweather always scouts out his opponents and knows he's like, you know what? What's the risk tolerance I have? And his risk tolerance is extremely low. And if he feels he'll see a way he can win the fight, he ain't having that fight. Or at least he thinks the timing of him having that fight with that individual might not be right. He's not likely having the fight. That doesn't mean he's ducking fights, because I think people give him a bad rap. Because if you look at who he's fought a lot of legitimate dudes over the years. And he was quite honestly better than all of them. But I think there is that element of him. He's a boxing savant. He's looking at it as like, Bud Crawford, I ain't sure about that. But he would check those boxes. The other person, he's already fought Canelo, so it doesn't matter in this case. So I'm not picking him. But the other person that would, I think Canelo would check the box too. To be honest with you, Canelo would check the box too. So those two guys would check the boxes. But I don't think you want any part of that smoke. The other person in this case where I think he feels much safer with it is Pacquiao, and that's why I think it works out well for him to have that fight with Pacquiao. And I think, quite honestly, I don't think Canelo would have a fight with Mayweather, honestly, because I think there's more risk for Canelo that if he were to lose to Mayweather again, then it's like, whoa, what, the dude's like almost 50 and you still lose to him? There's that risk about it. But I think he's a dude who don't really care. He'll fight anybody, so I don't think he would care. I only think the reason why Crawford wouldn't be the person so much is that going back to the bang for your buck. What sells bigger to the public, Mayweather Crawford or Mayweather Pacquiao 2? That's a debate. I don't know. I think it's pretty even, but Mayweather might see it as like, nah, Pacquiao's got a bigger brand and can sell more in that case. It's true. From the Filipino audience alone will kind of boost that up. So that's my rationale for the three reasons why I think, Mr. Floyd Mayweather Jr. is back in the ring and, and looking to fight his old rival Pacquiao. As we get closer to the fight, I'll break down my thoughts on, who I think is going to win, kind of what we saw in the first fight. Hey, man, as I said before, I'm a huge fight fan. I can't lie. I was not expecting this little treat when I started doing the podcast for this week, the weekend. But lo and behold, man, I said before, boxing always keeps it interesting. Hey, you know where to find me weekly on Basketball Rewind. Of course, you're gonna find me right here. Check me out on X, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, and of course right here on YouTube. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, guys. The subscribe's for free. I appreciate the support. We'll talk next time. Peace.